Hello, and welcome back to Book and Page. So we're actually on to chapter 11 of The Hobbit already. We're getting towards, actually being in the Lonely Mountain. Not quite there yet, because this chapter is aptly named On the Doorstep. Almost there, almost there. So let's do a quick summary before we get to the talkie-talkie. Okay, so the company is sailed out by an escort of men from Lake Town, as far as those men are willing to go, and then they're given ponies and they actually have to ride alone the rest of the way. Because there's a dragon in that there mountain, and gold ain't worth it until we see the gold. So, Bilbo and Balin end up scouting the front gate, which they know they can't get in through, and decide that, the dragon is probably still alive in that mountain. That might be a problem. The dwarves, now that they're here, starting to get affected. They're getting depressed and a little listless, but Bilbo pushes through, and he, Fili, and Kili actually manage to find the stairway up to what we will call the doorstep, which is to say the nice little plateau area before the secret door. They can't get in, and this makes everyone even more depressed until Bilbo actually notices a thrush knocking, and he remembers exactly what Elrond read off, which is when the thrush knocks, then the last light of Durin's day will shine on the keyhole. So the keyhole does appear with the sun setting and the first moonlight, and Thorn opens the door with his key. So we end with the door into the mountain opening. So, a little ominous. Like, we're sort of feeling the depressive nature of this area along with the dwarves in this moment. But we gotta be like Bilbo. We gotta be like Bilbo and push on through. And push Bilbo into the mountain while we stay outside. Okay, so let's talk about a few things. You'll notice throughout this chapter a couple of times that Tolkien actually tells us that nobody is willing to sing anymore. The men sort of realize it first, they row them up as far as they're willing to go, and then they're just like, we sang all those songs about rivers flowing with gold. I mean, when they do, we'll be happy, but you're on your own from here. Like, they're just, nope. We're rowing the other direction. Doesn't matter what the songs say. And we even see that with the dwarves. Same thing with the dwarves. As they're walking, they're very quiet. They don't sing on the doorstep. They don't sing at camp. And it's specified that they're not interested in singing. We have conversations happening. Bilbo and Balin have a very interesting conversation about the front gate and whether or not all the smoke coming out of it is proof that Smaug is still alive, or that's just the remnants of the destruction that Smaug actually brings. So, it's singing, it's music that seems to have died in this moment, because the real world is starting to encroach, because we've already noted the deep connection between music and myth. But now that the real world's interceding here, it becomes harder to bring up that myth through song, which is sort of interesting because the real world hasn't directly intruded at this moment. It's not like Smaug has shown up, or a bunch of trolls have shown up, or goblins, or anything like that. It's not like they are in desperate straits right in this moment. But the proof historically that it's happened before is enough to be depressing. They see the ruins of Dale and this desolated area around the mountain, and that's enough for all of them to go, I'm not sure I can do this anymore. Like, I'm really not sure. We're here, and if this entire pair of kingdoms fell to Smaug, what are we going to do about it? And what's really interesting in the fact that this past encroaching kills the music is there seems to be then some failure in the music that these dwarves and these men of Lake Town and Bilbo as a hobbit it's a failure of the music that they have. They don't have anything in this moment that allows them to garner hope or anything like that. They need a music that offers them hope in moments of fear and desolation. But that doesn't seem to be something they have in all the songs that they've all learned. They don't have something that lets them face death and unknown, and helps counteract how depressive everything is and how desolate everything is. There's no hope in their music in moments like this. Sure, they have songs that talk about the desolation of Smaug and his destruction of the Lonely Mountain, but those aren't we can defeat him moments. Those are we lost last time. Sure, we sing about the gold, but those aren't moments of, I mean, historically one time we killed the dragon, so we can do it again. None of these groups have a music like that they can actually pull out in moments like this to buck up and bring spirits up. All their music fails in this moment. It's not appropriate. They can't sing about it because you're either singing about the time you lost or you're singing about something that you can't get because, you know, there's a dragon in the way. And what's really interesting, you could tell I really love the music of the Tolkien books. What's interesting is we do meet a group of people that have a grasp of this type of music, but we don't meet them until quite a ways into the Lord of the Rings, and that would be the Rohirrim, or the horse people, who, it's actually noted in the books, go into battle singing. They sing battle songs. They sing about great victories. They don't have a fear of going into battle because their music garners their courage and brings them forth into battle. And facing death that way is a lot easier because they're going to sing about me. They're going to sing about our great victories. And they'll sing about the fallen, about the heroes and the warriors. But it's already been noted here that we don't have heroes or warriors with capital H and capital W. Those people are gone, off fighting battles in other lands. So the people we do have don't have access to this music. And it really affects them deeply to the point where they become listless. They're not able to actually be active because they don't have myths to draw on which says that we can do these great things. At least not in this context. I'm sure against goblins, dwarves have many songs about their victories. But you need a song about victory over a dragon, and for these people, it's simply not there. Even more so for Bilbo, because Bilbo is a hobbit. They're not known for having great battles. Like, it's just historically not there for them to draw on at this moment. And that causes a problem. More for the dwarves than Bilbo. And this is one of the really interesting things, because as the dwarves become more and more inactive, Bilbo has to become more active. And he actually explicitly recognizes that in this chapter, that he has to take charge, because he's just watching how low these dwarves are feeling, and says, okay, I've got to pull them up. Gandalf's not here. I've got to pull the dwarves up. We can't give up now. We're literally sitting on the doorstep. And Bilbo helps get there. I mean, Bilbo and Fili and Kili find the stairs. And Bilbo specifically finds the stairs and recognizes the stairs. Because the ability to bounce back in moments like this, he can see more than the dwarves can. He can pick out the stairs in this moment and follow them through. And he also knows the importance of the thrush. The thrush knocking, like nobody else looks at it, and he's just looking at this thrush like, wait a minute, wait a minute. I know that bird. That's an important bird. Though his opinion of that bird will change in the next chapter. So Bilbo has this ability to see things, but he also has this interesting ability to balance the need to be active and the need to wait. Because at first he's very active. He's the one going, come on guys, we gotta find the doorstep, let's go. I mean, he goes with Balin to the front gate, which the Bilbo at the start of this tale would not have done. Just like, yeah, I want to see all the steam from that there dragon. Like, I want to go to bed. No, Bilbo gets more active until they get to the doorstep. And then he sort of remembers the joke he made about, we gotta sit on the doorstep until we can figure out how to get through that door. And he does. He sits and he waits. And he doesn't know why he's waiting, but he knows, he feels like he's waiting for something. And he's waiting for the thrush to knock. Something in the back of his head remembered needing to wait for the thrush to knock before the keyhole will show up. So he's waiting. He knows the moments where you just need to sit back and let go without despairing. And in fact, I think this speaks to a major difference between the dwarves and the hobbits that you can see at their very cores. The difference between making and growing. The dwarves are very material-oriented people. We've noticed that. They like working with gold and jewels and creating things and building things. You can see that once we get inside the mountain. Even after Smaug has just ruined everything, you can see the craftsmanship here. But making is a very active thing. You're always involved with it. You're always working on it. Growing is less active. When you're growing a garden, there are certain things that you can do to help, like water the garden, or put the little stakes in, and so the plants have something to wind around. But you can't force a plant to grow. You can't make a plant. The plant has to grow on its own. And you need to know when to let it work and when to help it and get involved in those moments. So Bilbo's doing better in this situation, not because he has the myth to draw on and the music to draw on. We've established he doesn't. He does better because he has his own history with gardens to draw on. He loved being out in his garden, so he knows that sometimes you need to sit back and wait. You can't just make everything happen at your speed. It has to happen at the speed of the world. You can't speed up how a flower grows. But again, you can help it along with fertilizer. And Bilbo helps some of these dwarves along. Again, he not only prompts looking for the doorstep itself, we actually see him prompting Thorin. When the keyhole shows up, everybody freezes except Bilbo, who's like, unlock it! Like, he knows he's going to be the one going into this mountain. That was what he was hired to do. So the fact that even then he's the one going, Thorin, the key, please. That says something. He's a natural gardener. He's seeing a moment where we need to get involved. I don't have the tools here, Thorin. You have the tools. Thorin used the key. And Thorin does. Thorin listens to him. We're getting better communication in these moments because Thorin listens to Bilbo and remembers, yes, I do in fact have a key. Which is funny because no one seemed to remember before this point that a key needed to be involved. They're all trying to break down the door. A key's involved. Know when your tools are needed and know how to use them. And you think the dwarves would know that considering the dwarves make things. But waiting isn't something they're used to doing. Now, it should be noted, of course, Bilbo is not the only one becoming more active and becoming a leader when a leader is needed. just like Bilbo becoming more active, we're also seeing Philly and Killy showing up a little more. They're the ones that actually help him look for the stairs when everybody else is like, eh. Philly and Killy, hello! And, in fact, they also run messages between the base camp, the bottom of the mountain, and the doorstep. So they're not able to be waiting like Bilbo, but they're not becoming listless like the other dwarves. They're doing useful movement in this moment rather than just moving for the sake of moving. And I wanted to mention them because it's important not to just get so focused on Bilbo that we forget the merits that we are seeing of other people here. And we are seeing some merits. Philly and Killy, in all likelihood, they weren't there for the desolation. Thorin was, and we know Balin was. Balin is confirmed to have been with Thorin when the dragon attacked the mountain, which is how he survived. So the fact that they're becoming desolate, it makes sense. Historically, they know how bad all of this was. Philly and Killy might be able to push through because while they don't have the myth of victory in the music, they also don't have the personal experience of all of this going horribly wrong. So, yeah, I mean, Philly and Killy, woo! I mean, if you know the book, you know exactly why that's a depressed woo. Yeah, so, surprisingly impressed for, we run around for a while and then wait as a chapter. It has some moments that you can pull those strings and see the tale, not only the place in the Hobbit, in that story, but you can also see the connection to the wider world with this lack of music and this difference between growing and making that we see at the core of the hobbits and the dwarves. So, yeah, I was not expecting that, but sort of blew my mind when I realized it. Okay, so we're on to the next chapter, and the next chapter, we're actually into the mountain, or at least Bilbo is, and we finally get Smaug the dragon. I'll make a very good dragon. I mean, I hoard books, so maybe I'm a book dragon. It's actually a really interesting idea. I'm gonna keep reading, and I hope you do too. See you next time.